Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Before I start today's show, just remember there's a Linktree link near this video somewhere, and in there is a way to join my email list. All my links for everything to do with the show is in there. But the email list is the most important thing because that's the only way I stay in touch with you. Now, this is on BitChute because we're going to talk about things today that YouTube hates. The masters don't like us talking about what we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about sovereignty. We're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about equity. And I'm joined by my good friend, Peter Wilson, who's been on the show before. Hello, Peter.
Hello there.
Let's just dive in. What's going on? You've been championing helping people get out of debt and get bailiffs away from them, reclaim their sovereignty using common law, or maybe not common law. You'll correct me on that. For quite a while now. And what's your YouTube channel? Just remind me of
that. 2021, going back to well, I can't remember. I'll have to check. I never look at it. It's like, what is it called? Something about democracy. 2021, going back to democracy. I'll have a look.
Well, I'll put a link below the video anyway. But you know, just explain to people who've not seen you on my channel, not seen you before, what you've been up to during this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we've been doing is trying to help people realize their sovereignty. Okay, so that they're actually realizing that they are like a living, breathing, flesh and blood creation of God, and that they are here as a special guest on earth, if you want to put it that way. So they've got no need for any permission to be here from any other like source, like a government or any of that stuff. So, you know, that's what we're basically doing, and being able to help them not just realize it internally, but also to state it to anybody like a government and say, hang on, look, we're not here for you, right? You're here for us. And this is the case. And then we actually get them to complete forms, which we call correcting their status. Now, what we mean by correcting the status is, unfortunately, unknown to us as little babies getting born into the world, the government coerce and trick your parents into signing a birth certificate, which in their mind is just like, oh yeah, they're just telling us we've got a lovely little baby boy, little baby girl. But unfortunately, it's not. What it does is it actually signs over ownership as a ward, being born in a hospital ward, a ward of state. You give away the parental rights to the government. So you think you have all your sons and daughters. Unfortunately, they've been turned into children, not sons and daughters anymore, and taken over by the government. Now, at the same time that they do this, they also create a second birth certificate, which creates you in full capitalized name, right? So if you've ever seen your name in full capitals, which like most people don't even pay attention,
No.
But if you look at your driving license, look at your passport, and then go and have a look at some relatives' gravestones, everything from birth to death is full capitals. And that is because they have turned you into a corporation.
And it's worth pointing out that governments are corporations themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're not, you know, and this for me, this is one of the fundamental parts of the Matrix, because I've been studying this for, well, not studying like you, but studying this stuff for, I maybe came across the idea of a straw man about 10, 12 years ago. And it, you know, because you've got a busy life, it takes a while for it to really sink in, because we've been so, I don't know, I see these tentacles that are inside us, and it's like pulling the fucking thing, pulling out spaghetti, because it's like, this doesn't compute. You know, I've tried explaining this stuff to my mum, and she just goes, okay, and it doesn't get it. And it's like, it's amazingly, I'm saying this for the viewers, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is fundamental for us to regain our freedom, right?
Definitely.
On every level, on a financial level, on a legal level, on a spiritual level, on a physical level, and never more so than at this time. So that's why me and Peter were having a chat earlier, and I said, look, we've got to do a show. Let's just talk about this stuff, because I think it's so important. And whatever we talk about in this show, if you don't believe that there's a straw man in your birth certificate as a contract and turns you into a corporation. Go and do your own research after watching this show. Okay.
100%. And the thing is, the reason why they turn us into a corporation is exactly because what you've just said. The governments themselves are all corporations, so they are all private companies for profit, and you are their profit. So they cannot deal. A corporation cannot deal with a living being. A corporation can only legally deal with another corporation. So what they've done is they've created this full capitals name, which is you as a corporation, and then they can deal with that legal entity. So you have, which is it's called a fiction. So any sort of like a business term, like a corporation, it's called a fiction because it's not real, doesn't exist. It only exists in law or on a piece of paper. So what they've done is with the birth certificate is they've turned you into a piece of paper. So they can actually interact between the two pieces of paper. All right. So, and it's mind boggling. And I don't blame anybody for going, I mean, it's just craziness. But this has been going on, and we don't want to sort of like go all the way back, but, you're talking biblical times, and, there's even references to Jesus Christ talking about walking above the water. Now, it's all allegorical. He wasn't floating on water. He's talking about being above the admiralty laws, or the laws of the sea, the water, which is what everything is run on. Just yesterday, I was reading legislation, your UK or wherever you live, but just say the UK government's legislation, and it was talking about how they created admiralty jurisdiction to be inside of every court in the country. So, and people say to me, "Oh, you're stupid." Even these clowns in costumes, the police, they say, "Look, it's got nothing to do with like law of the sea, admiralty." Excuse me, under your legislation, it actually tells you point blank, all of the courts in this country are all under admiralty jurisdiction under your acts of parliament. So don't tell me that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists.
Well, I've had the pleasure of being in a court a couple of times in the UK, and so I was a very naughty boy, and they look like a ship's. They're built to look like a ship's deck, and the judge is like the captain of the ship, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and then you have to cross the bar to go into where the waters, if you want to call it that, and you're not permitted in there until they allow you in, and they'll only allow you in if you consent to the name. Now you're not consenting to Mark or Peter, you're consenting to the full capitalized name. And you don't know that if you've never been educated in this field, because they're never going to tell you that at school, are they? So if you admit that you are that capitalized name because of the way they've said it, they've said Mark Attwood. Oh yeah, that's me. You step in past that bar, you are in deep water, literally.
Well, I want to bring up some useful things here for people watching this early on. When it's all run on consent, but we don't. The same as the birth certificate, the parents don't realize what they're doing, and the baby doesn't because the baby's a baby. So everybody's like tricked. But everything you do in life after that is all based upon your consent, which you give because you don't realize that you've been tricked. That's the first thing that people need to understand. There are things that you can do to start standing in your power. There are a number of things. I'm going to bring up what comes off the top of my head. So when a policeman says to you, "Do you understand me?" what they're actually saying is, "Do you agree to stand under me?" So if you say, "Yes, I understand you," you've actually just agreed to stand under them. You've just entered a contract, then you have to do what they say. That's just one thing that you need to go and look into yourself. Another thing that I found really useful years ago was when I realized the digital switchover with TV that Tony Blair brought into the UK was really a mind control device, because I noticed that the TV was actually hypnotizing people back in, my kids especially, back in 2013, 2014. I got rid of the TV, and then I looked into this TV license nonsense in the UK. It's the same worldwide. The license isn't necessarily the same, but it's the same worldwide. If I stopped paying the TV license and I knew that they were going to come, and I looked into it and I learned this amazing sentence. When they came to collect money off me, I knew that if they said, "Are you?" the first thing they say is, "Are you Mark Attwood?" And I remember going to the door shaking. And I think I told this story on the show before with you, but I'm going to tell it again for people that have not seen it. I was shaking because I was stepping over was stepping outside of the matrix when I did this, and I had my phone on me, and I said, I opened the door, and he said, "Are you Mark Attwood?" I said, "I'm not answering that question, and I'm filming you, which I'm going to put up on YouTube later. So just so you're aware of that." And then he just kept repeating the question, "Are you Mark Attwood? Are you Mark Attwood?" And I kept saying, "I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not." And then I said this magic sentence: "I also refute your implied right of access to this property. Can you please leave?" And to my utter amazement, he walked onto the public pathway. And I was stood there going, "Oh God, this is like magic. This is incredible." Because, you know, bailiffs are scary and debt collectors are scary. And I realized back then the whole world is run on red ink and yellow paint. Because the yellow paint, so I didn't pay a parking ticket for years. And because I realized, and my wife at the time did a lot of research into this, that as soon as you respond, you've entered a contract.
Yeah, exactly right.
Incredibly powerful once you start understanding this stuff. And there was an amazing guy on YouTube who did a lot of stuff about, and I can't remember his name. You probably know him. I think his name was John something. And he was talking about the straw man stuff, and he was doing talks around the country in the UK. And I think he died. And people said that he might have been.
Yeah, John Harris. Yeah, I mean, he's either died or disappeared, one of the two, or some people think he's in hiding, you know, but that's going to be a great conspiracy theory forever and ever anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, you know, everything he was saying was, I can't remember who it was taught him now. It was a woman who taught him, you know, all of it, who was quite a well-to-do lady, if you like, had taught him all this stuff because she was of the aristocracy. So she understood who she was. And that's what we have to do. Yeah, we have to understand who we are, right? We are not a corporation. We are alive. We are living flesh and blood. So they need us to joinder with them. That's what they're looking for all the time, joinder.
That's
what that means. It's legalese.
Legalese, right? Which is another language.
And it's completely another language. And that's the thing is what you have to do is you have to kind of freeze your mouth and calm your brain down when you're dealing with these people, because they try and trick you all the time. They're not speaking English.
It's the coercion and the pressure and the clown outfits that make, and the stupid wigs and the batons and the guns. These are the things that they're the tools to coerce you into agreeing to represent your straw man.
It's all psychological. It's all trickery. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying they won't take out your weapon and hit you on the head or spray something in your eyes. I'm not saying they won't, but they appear this way. Why are they all bright yellow, you know, and why are the vans painted that way? It's all just to scare you. And then the next thing you know, are you Peter Wilson? Yes. Well, you've contracted. You've given them joinder, right? You never, ever give them your name. You never, ever give them any details like address or anything like that. You know, I'm going to try and find my ID card. Give me 2 seconds. You've got to see this.
Okay.
Now, this is how we travel.
Sorry, I was just laughing because you've got Buddha behind you, and right behind my computer screen is Buddha as well.
That's it. Got to look after us.
Chop wood, carry water.
So this is how we travel.
Private sovereign man, Peter. Oh. Yeah, and that's a red fingerprint in your picture.
My thumbprint, and there's my autographs under the thumbprint. Can you see it? With the colons.
The colon, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You
can just see it. So if you ever get stopped, this is what, you know, and so, well, who are you? Well, there's my ID. All it says is, you know, the private sovereign man, Peter. That is not giving them joinder because they want to get your capitalized name.
Well, I'm going to ask you this because everybody watching this is going to ask you this. Have you got a template for that? Do you print it off? Do we buy it? How do we get that?
Well, I'll tell you what we can do. I mean, to get this, I mean, I've got like the wording. There's 4 or 5 different people that I've seen that have got different wording. I just found what I felt comfortable with, but I can easily, we'll put it up in the comments, what's written on it. But this one, the card, I literally went on to Google and I just put plastic ID card, and there was, I don't know, a handful of companies on there, and you can literally go in and you create the card on there and then pay for them to print it out. They show you what it looks like before you pay for it, so you make sure you haven't done it wrong, misspelling or anything, so you can double check everything. and it was about you don't buy one, you buy 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever it is. It works out about 4 or 5 quid a card.
Right. Well, I'm doing that.
But you know, one of the big things is like, oh, if you're not going to provide details, we're going to try and arrest you. Well, there's my details. You can't tell me I'm not giving you ID. There's my ID.
You're just not giving them the details in the contracted form.
I'm not creating joinder.
Yeah.
You know, the stupid thing is, it's like we just do it all the time right now. When you ring up, for instance, let's just say Sky, to the top of my head, and you say, look, I want to pay me bill. I don't know how you do it, but like, you know, like just say you have to pay, ring up, pay. And they say, well, we need to clarify your security details. Give me your full name, your full address, and your date of birth. Why do they want that? Think about it logically. If some stranger rang up Sky and went, can I pay Peter Wilson's bill? Do you think I'm going to complain? Right? Yeah, go pay. But like, you create joinder every time on the phone. That's why you never ever call any debt companies, collection companies, banking. I know you're dealing with your own private bank, but not a bank loan company or credit card company. You never deal with them on the phone because they'll not speak to you unless they create joinder first, and then you are under contract. You've got no choice. And that's the same when the clowns in costume, when they come up to you, all right, and they just say, what's your name? Have you got your details? Right now, that guy that was in Wales, I think he was homeless, and they arrested him. And then because he wouldn't give any details, because he hasn't got any, they arrested him. But when they appealed, it was the High Court Justice. They went, you can't do this, and they kicked the case out against the police. Now, police are really foaming now, but that's a fact. You have the right to remain silent, so you don't have to give anybody your details anyway by law.
Oh, well, that brings up a question. If you've got the right to remain silent, but they want to create joinder, does that mean that at some point in the past there were some good people involved in the law?
Well, you know, everything's been set up to in a good way, and then slowly but surely they've chipped away at it to make it the opposite. I mean, when the police force was first done, it was under Robert Peel. Now you have 9 principles of law enforcement, and one of those is the police are the public are the police. There has to be joint respect between both, because a policeman is only a full-time public person upkeeping the law, because everyone's duty is to upkeep the law, right? And that's what it states. The police are the public are the police. So what they used to have village policemen and town policemen, and everybody knew each other. That was the difference. You even had the big Bobby. I remember, like, you know, like when I was a kid, you did something wrong, he slapped your head and kicked you up the backside and went home. I
loved our village policeman. He went round on his bike and he'd tell us off for scrumping and things like that. But he knew our names, he knew where we lived, he knew our parents. And when I go back to my village, all I see is fences everywhere.
Yeah.
Even the school when I was a kid, I used to walk through this field, get to the school. There were no fences anywhere. Now it's just fence. And I've still got some relatives that live there. And last time I went there, I said, how's it, you know, how's the village? And they go, well, we don't know anybody anymore.
Yeah.
And that's all by design.
Of course, 100%.
You know, we're old enough to, I said to my kids, I was born in the late 60s. And I think the 70s was the last period of time where I experienced life where we really were a community.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that we were poor. It really didn't. We had a really rich life, you know, and everybody grew their own veg. It sounds like an idyllic thing, but it was in many ways.
Yeah.
It was, you know, everybody.
Oh yeah.
The only problem was we all saluted the Queen and Country and all of that. We all fell for that shit. But
but you don't know, do you? You know, I mean, the thing is, if you look at what they still do now is they put it up there and you see the people, like, you know, literally fainting when they see a picture of the Queen. It's crazy, you know. But yeah, I mean, so what they've done is, if you take it back to there, then that was the police, and the police were stand-up people. They were like really respected in the community. Now you've got to admit, if you look at the way that they're all acting, they are hated in the community. Now, the amount of videos that I've seen, I try hard not to watch them, you know, because you just can't concentrate on that negativity. But now and again, someone sent me a video. Oh, what do you think of this? And it was like one that had somebody got reported for having a neighbor in having a cup of tea, right? Because of lockdown. And there was this policewoman hanging through the window, screaming and shouting to open the door. We're coming to arrest you. And do you really think that that is normal, like proper behavior? That's that is insanity.
They must have changed the training, because there are good police people, right? There are good people in the police all over the world. But I really think that they don't know the law. They're not taught the law.
They're not taught the law. They're not taught the law at all. You see, the thing is, all they're taught, and I'm not meaning any disrespect, but like the facts are the facts. So that their training has been halved, right? So the training that they had has been halved anyway. So they're bringing in much younger people. And I'm not saying that because I'm old. It's always the joke, isn't it? The policemen are too young, right? They've brought in this younger generation who have been through the schooling system that's been designed there to like alienate people from people.
Yeah.
So they haven't got the same kind of social skills that we had when we were growing up. Yeah. I would have never sworn or been cheeky to an elder because I would have been scared. I would have got my head slapped. Yeah. Right now, the abuse you get off children is just ridiculous, or even just like no respect or manners.
Yeah.
So this is the generation that they've gone through. Then they go to this college for policing, and they are basically given the very bare bones of legalese, yeah. Right? And if your job is you have to go and monitor the traffic, then you're only going to know, like, Road Traffic Act 163 and 164. 163, I can stop you. 164, I can only search you if I have a valid reason to search your car. And that's all you'll know. You'll not know anything else. And if you get challenged on it, and I've seen multiple times live and on video, they get really angry because they've got no answer.
Yeah, and they believe that they have this power over you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's the big issue, right?
Yeah,
and also, I mean, I don't really want to go deep into the police because it's the police. We need them to wake up. That's the big thing, and I think there are really good people in the police. I've spoken to people here who know some of the guards in Ireland who are literally on prescription drugs just to get through their day because they hate what they're doing, but they're so worried about losing their income and their family and their pension. But a lot of they don't realize their pensions have been stolen anyway.
But that's the whole thing. And the whole threat of them is they're going to lose their wages, lose their pension, you lose their life, which I'm going to go on to, right? Because that is the whole reason that we're here. That is the fakery, because money doesn't even exist anyway, right? Yeah. But if you ever have to deal with, like, the police in any way, you just have to be really respectful, right? I'm not going to go on, like, confront them just for a laugh, right? No. But if it was ever came to me, then I would just be, look, I need to see your warrant card, please. Now, they have to, by law, give you the warrant card, and you notice now they've been told, obviously by someone higher up, don't give them it and don't tell them your name. They have to make themselves known. They have to, by the police code of conduct. So just say, look, by the police code of conduct, you have to make yourself known. Use those words, make yourself known. And all you've got to say, if they won't do it, just say, well, I need to find out what your number is in your station, and I need to report you for not making yourself known, which I will do. And I want to know your senior police officer that told you were allowed to not make yourself known. And then just say, look, you have no consent, no contract, no joinder, you have no jurisdiction, you are dismissed.
I saw that.
You're not being rude.
I saw that in a video the other day, a guy saying you are dismissed, and I put it up on Telegram and got a great reaction because it's great to see people doing that because it empowers everybody else. And if there's any police watching this, we're not against you. We just want you to know what you're doing, because at the moment you're the ones who are supporting a satanic paedophile network of monsters that want you and your family and all of us dead. That's what I'd love to get a police in the room and just explain that point, because
but the thing is that, so do they think that by helping the school bully's not going to go and turn around and kill their children?
Well,
in reality,
that's the thing. They don't realize it, and God, please let them realize it one day. Anyway, we called this video "Smash Your Debts" with
which is like talking about like the what we're saying is like the reason why the police are scared, because they think they're going to lose their pension, and that because all they're doing is this whole system is set up through money to make people scared of not having any, whereas money itself is completely fake. It doesn't exist. right? And I know people get, oh, yeah, I'll go to the shop and I buy things, but you're using debt notes, debt.
Well,
notes.
they are literally IOUs. It actually says on the 5. I promise to pay the bearer upon demand the sum of £5. It's literally an IOU.
It is 100%.
Yeah.
So you could go to a bank or go to a shop and write on a bit of paper, I owe you £5 for my shopping, and give them it. And by that Act, the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, they have to, by law, accept it.
But they won't.
And that's a fact. Well, they won't, because they'll probably punch you. But it is the law. But it's just because it's been set up where we're just literally hammered every day from school or even from birth. And you've just mentioned it, the TV. Now, it's either TV or these little game screen things. I don't know what they're called. I've never had one in my life. But you know what I mean, don't you? They play these things with their thumbs. And so they're either watching that screen or they're watching a television screen. Like when you said when you were young, you were always out running through fields, like, stealing apples. We were like running up and down. We were next to an old pit heap, so we were always coming home filthy, covered in coal dust, climbing up the pit heap, playing out until it was getting dark, and you'd walk home before it got dark, or you'd get slapped across the head again. So you were always out playing. You were so you're always a lot fitter than what kids are now.
We were fit as butcher's dogs. There's a picture of me I found the other day when I was 11. I was like a whippet.
Yeah, because it's all you ever did was run around and play. You weren't sitting down, sedentary lifestyle, sitting playing on something, looking at a big screen like that was hypnotizing you and telling you that you were a robot, trying to make you a robot, and that money exists and that you are in this matrix. And this is the biggest realization of the matrix, is getting your head around money does not exist, or it doesn't exist unless you have gold or silver. Because if you take it to the UK, which is the hideous bleeding heart of the cabal, right, which is where it all comes from, all of the finance all comes from London, the city of London, which is a country of its own, right, inside of London. They got rid of the gold and silver out of the UK just before the First World War, and they said it was to help Britain fight the war. Oh yeah, right, okay. So they took everyone's gold off them, everyone's silver off them.
That's right. And that was repeated in America in the 30s under Roosevelt, and then Winston Churchill, the satanic paedophile Winston Churchill, when he was in 1926, when he was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he got rid of the gold standard. And they just, this is what you mean by them they've been chipping away at this, leading up to this time. That's what this is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a funnel, isn't it?
They've done it with the money. They've done it with the food. It's a full spectrum dominance attack. There's a great book by F. Wilhelm Engel, I think his name is. I might have said it wrong. Called Full Spectrum Dominance, which everybody should go and look it up and read it, because the human race has been under attack for hundreds of years. Right, mankind has been under attack, and this is a major part of it, because it's all based on belief. It's all based on our belief, and the belief has been put there by these motherfuckers. So unplugging from the matrix is literally getting rid of these beliefs and actually looking at the facts. So sorry, I went off on one.
So if you take it back to like the money thing, and people saying that you're in debt, how can you be in debt if there's no money?
Yeah, and
can't be.
So go on. Sorry, I was going to interject with something there, but carry on.
Go. So let's take it. Let's just say, for instance, the biggest thing that I know for a fact that people have a real hard time getting into is the mortgage fraud. Now, all mortgages are 100% fraudulent, but you probably, or a lot of people probably think they're fraudulent, have got an idea they're fraudulent, but don't realize how fraudulent they are. Because, go on then. Go on.
No, I was going to say, anybody watching this, if you doesn't believe this, just look at the word mortgage. Mort, gauge. In French, mort, death, gauge, grip.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there.
Death grip. There you go.
Yeah.
So what happens is, let's just say, for instance, and this kills me because, I know people who've just done it recently, and it's pointless trying to explain to them, because they want that house. I want that house. I love this house. I'm getting this house. So you go along, you do all your bits and bobs, and you're going to sign your sign of nature, signature, sign of nature.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
And that is your power. That is the value. It's the only thing that's valuable, right? So what happens is, right, you got your documents and you're going to sign this document. You think it's for a mortgage. You think you're going to get money. You are signing a promissory note. You are signing a £10 note, a £5 note. That's all that they are, promissory notes, a debt note. You've signed one. It's a promissory note. So say, for instance, it's £200,000 mortgage. You, by your sign of nature, have just created £200,000 credit. You've given it to the bank. The bank have deposited it into their account, and then they've took it out of their account and give it back to you. And then they say to you, now sign this. It means that you have to repay this back for 25 years. Just think of the words repayment. How can you redo something? You can only redo something that's already been done. So you're repaying it because you've paid it off in full by your sign of nature, your signature. You created the credit.
It's all sleight of hand, isn't it?
100%. So they also, when you sign it, you sign a power of attorney. Now, the power of attorney gives them the right and the ability to then start acting in fractional banking. So a lot of people probably heard it, but let's just really take it down to its like essence behind the scenes. You sign that, they give you your money that they want you to repay for 25 years. They then take that promissory note, which is worth £200,000, and they sell it again on the stock exchange to all the investors.
Right, pause there.
10 times.
Pause there. Go back. I think people watching this might be the bit where it gets confusing is how is it your money? When you sign the sign of nature and it's 200 grand, whatever, how do they create that money based upon your signature?
Because you are the source of all credit. You are the only living creature on earth that can create credit. All of the everything's run by the central banks. So we know that all of governments are bankrupt. Yes, there is no money. Like the UK was made bankrupt in 1814 by the Rothschilds, right? For the Napoleonic Wars.
I thought it was 18. Was it before the end of the Napoleonic Wars?
What he did, it was the Battle of Waterloo.
That was 1815, wasn't it?
Right. Well, was it not 18? It was 1814 or 1815. It was there. What he did is he pretended, because he had messengers running back from the battle. So he pretended that Napoleon had won.
This is
so
Nathan.
He started selling all his shares.
So this is Nathan Rothschild, who was one of Amos Rothschild's 5 kids that he'd sent out across Europe to control. And basically, Rothschilds took over Britain in 1815, the Battle of Waterloo.
Yeah.
So
by selling all of his stocks, everyone else in the country panicked and sold them till everything was literal. And everybody will understand that once the stock starts getting sold, the prices plummet. And then when it hit rock bottom, like Rothschild bought everything. So he owned basically the whole of the country.
And they've been using that trick ever since.
Very clever people. Just pity they weren't nice.
Oh, they're very clever, and I'm just going to link that up as well, because a lot of people going about the Rothschilds being like the ultimate bad guys, but beyond them are the Phoenicians and the 13 Phoenician families that have been running the world. There's also people beyond them and demons beyond them, but the Phoenician families, out of interest, based linking up with this water stuff, were all based in Venice, and because that was the only place on earth that was considered a ship at sea in law, and that's where all of our birth certificates and all the data on all of us were kept.
Yeah.
Allegedly, the White Hats took them out a year ago in February, like the head of the snake. But I'm just interjecting that bit of information because it all links up, and I want people to see how all this links up.
Of course, which is where we get like the Admiralty law from, because they believe they're on a ship at sea, so they think they can do anything as long as they don't go on land, and then they become under God's law on land, so they remain at sea. They think so that they're not going to be liable for anything that they're doing. That's what they reckon anyway.
Yeah,
So
well, that's the trick, isn't it? And when they're on land, they're under God's law, which is also known as natural law, which is related to common law, but it's not exactly the same, is it?
well, it's where it all comes from. So you've got God's law, natural law, which is the law of nature, you can't argue with, and then there's common law, which is man-made law that relates to God. So it'll be like us in our how we can live together, like under nature. So like thou shalt not kill, you know. So basically, thou shalt not steal, and all of that kind of stuff. But like going back to the like the Rothschild thing, what they've done is they made all of the governments, what you think is a country and a government doesn't exist. They're all corporations and are bankrupt corporations. So nobody has any money. Everything is debt. Okay. So because everything is debt, there is no money that anybody has. Banks do not have any money. So you create that credit by your sweat equity, that you are the collateral that is being used by your government against with the central banks. They actually lend money from the central banks or borrow money from the central banks using you as collateral, literally your sweat equity, future sweat equity, and your blood and you know, flesh. So you are literally the collateral that they use with the Rothschilds to get the money, the government. So there's nobody's got anything. So you're only dealing in debt. So when you sign of nature for the mortgage, there is no money. Your signature creates a promissory note. And this is what pisses me off, because you actually sign the promissory note, which then the bank uses to not only give you the money back, but then they sell 10 times under fractional banking on the stock exchange. So they sell that 200,000 10 times, right? So they got 2 million off you, and they still want you to repay the money that you paid for your own house. But you walk into a bank and write a promissory note, say, "Can I have $5?" They'll go, "No, get out, you nutcase."
Well, there's just two things I want to bring up there is my own background in this, and also I want to talk about make a note of this. I want to talk about how people buy a house without getting a mortgage, but we'll come to that in a second. I studied economics for 5 years. I got a degree, a fucking useless degree in economics, Bachelor of Arts, honors in economics. In my first year, I spent a whole year studying Karl Marx, Das Kapital, right? The Communist Manifesto, written by the satanic poet Karl Marx, right? Because he was an agent of these motherfuckers to create communism. We're now living, I'm bringing that up because we're now living under communism. That was their creation, right? That's what this whole COVID bullshit is to create this communist structure within which they can just murder who they want at will. And nobody ever mentioned, in 5 years, nobody ever mentioned fractional reserve banking. And when I first, if people join my email list, I send out a copy of The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin, which is a PDF version of a book written by a guy in America, I think about 40 years ago, which is an incredible book, which explains the birth of the Federal Reserve, which really gets you understanding how this fractional reserve banking system works and how fraudulent it is. And Peter just explained it there, but essentially, if you put £1 into a bank, that goes into their reserve, but then their reserve of cash might be like 0.5% of what the money that's been put into it, because then they just go and trade it and make all this and sell it on the market, the same as they do with your birth certificate. My birth certificate, allegedly, I did check this, has been traded something like 370,000 times. When there was this website last year, I don't know how true it was, but I checked it on this website, and it said when I put my national insurance number in, traded 370,000 times in 50 years. If they made $10 profit per trade, I'm owed $4 million because it's me.
Well, that's your set of KV trust, which, this might be a little bit too much for some people, but when you are born and you do your birth certificate, not only do they make you a corporation, but they create a QSIP number. The QSIP number, CUSIP, is what is used to trade equities on the stock exchange. So they create you as a QSIP number, and then they trade your birth certificate on the stock exchange forever, and your driving license, and your national insurance number, and if you get married, your marriage license, and once you die, they're going to do your death certificate as well. It all gets monetized. They all get QSIP numbers, then they group them together and sell them as securities on the stock exchange.
We are literally We are literally cattle, literally.
Yeah, you are the source of all credit.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's where the money comes from. So going back to like talking about this is how it's all controlled. We all think that money is real. That's why, you know, the police don't want to lose the jobs or the pensions because they'll not have any money. Because now we think that if you have no money, right, which there isn't anywhere, you can't eat. In their world, in the Matrix, that's exactly what it is. So, you know, what we have to do is now you see why we're trying to create sovereign communities is to get people going back to when we were kids and they were growing their own food in their own gardens and their own allotments and everything. So they would eat their own food, right? And then they wouldn't have to worry about like, well, if we haven't got any money, and then, you know, what we'll do is we'll swap what we have for what you have. So we'll barter with each other, and that's real living. So this is obviously they've tried to hide all that and push it all into a money-based, fiat currency-based, current sea, pushing it to the sea again. All right, going into banks, right, banks of a river, making it flow all to the sea, all going back to either Venice or the Vatican, whichever one you want to choose, right? So this just giving you an overall picture of the fraudulent ridiculousness of money and debt, because you cannot be in debt if there isn't any money. So I understand that people lose their houses when they get into arrears because they get fraudulently used by a court to take the property from them.
Yeah.
But let's just take it back a bit to let's just, I can talk about that in a second, but let's go back to unsecured debt, say a bank loan.
Yeah.
Right. Which is like, well, even if you've never had a house, nearly everyone must have had a bank loan. Okay. And it's exactly the same principle. Now, people say, oh, I've never been into a bank. I did it online. An electronic signature is still a sign of nature. Okay. If you use your bank card, right now, you never sign anything anymore. You go bing, 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 bing. It's still an electronic sign of nature. It's a signature, and it still creates the money. So, you know, it makes no difference. We just advanced a little bit. We've gone into Star Trek days, so we don't need ink all the time. But once you agree to do this bank loan, all right, you do your signature or you do your electronic signature, you create a promissory note again. So you're making it like a 20 grand loan, right? So that 20,000, you created it, no one else. It doesn't exist until you provide your sign of nature. You are the source of all credit. Your sign of nature will create the credit, and then they'll give it back to you. Okay. And they'll give it back to you, right, with usury, i.e. interest. So not only did they do nothing to create this, which is usury, getting something for nothing, they're going to give you it and want you to pay more back. Interest. So let's just say, for instance, no legal advice given whatsoever, but if it was my loan, right, I would not pay it back. Because, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to pay it back. So what happens is, right, now remember this, you've created that promissory note. So don't worry about the bank. Don't say, oh, the bank's lost money, I haven't repaid it. They have made probably like, you know, 200,000 to 300,000 just off you signing that bit of paper. All right. So don't feel sorry for them. Then, right, just they want you to repay it or repay it. That means to pay something again. Right. But just so you don't repay it, then they're going to send it off eventually to a debt collection agency. Now they do this by closing the debt account. They've closed the loan account. It's dead. It's gone. It doesn't exist. So how can you be responsible for it anymore if the bank themselves have closed it? So what they do is when they close it, not only have they made money off you by selling, like your fractional banking, selling it 10 times or whatever, but then they also write off what they class as bad credit, right? So then they write that off to tax. So they don't even have to pay tax on the profits because they're declaring you as a loss. So, and then, right, they sell a list. It's literally a list of names. So they're just the same as any kind of sales agency or any kind of business, right? At this quarter, we need to make an extra £20,000 to hit our target. So these people aren't paying us back. So let's get rid of them, close them off, write it off to tax, but then we'll sell this list of all these people to the debt collection agencies. So we'll get profit back from that as well. So they sell it, and they sell it for pennies. I mean, if yours was 10,000, they probably bought it for about £10.
Really,
right?
that
Oh, forgot. Yeah, yeah. Because you see what they do, they don't see you, they don't see a list, and they just see a massive list, and it's literally, you can call it eBay debt list, right? It's a bidding site, the same as eBay. So they go on, and all these like scumbag debt collection agencies all say, "Oh, I'll bid on that, I'll bid on that." Whoever does the highest bid wins that list, and it is just a list of names. And then they go in and then they start contacting you. This is the great bit. This is how I can help massively, right? They've got no right to speak to you. They have no standing in law, right? They are completely fraudulent. So forget the banks. They've got their money. They're happy. They've closed your account. They've gone. So they've sold the list, but they haven't sold the debt. They never sell the debt. This is the thing people always believe. So all of these horrible names, like Marstons and all of them, right? They buy this debt, and then what they do is they send you nasty letters saying, "We've bought your debt." First line. "We are going to send bailiffs around to collect the debt if you don't speak to us." Second line. Yeah, and it's just all like, start to make you scared, make you upset, so that you act irrationally. So by irrationally, what are you going to do? You're going to make a contract with them by contacting them on the phone. They want you. As soon as you've given your name.
Worst thing you can do.
Horrible, yeah.
Worst
It's
thing
a
you can do.
contract.
Don't ring them. Don't write to them. Nothing.
Joined her.
And then what I found interesting doing this years ago with the parking tickets is it became a game then, because then I started collecting all the letters, and then I put the letters down in order of sequence of getting them, and then how they twist the fear up on each letter. That's what I mean by then the red ink comes, and the red ink makes people go, "Oh," which is why teachers use red ink in schools to tell you off, right? So you're being trained to be scared of red ink. It's exactly like crazy.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is with these debt collection agencies, right? Now they have strict laws under now. Anything to do with debt, it can be a mortgage, it can be a personal loan, a car, anything. You always have to deal with deeds. So you have same as you have a deeds to a house. There's also deeds to a debt. Just that's the way it is, right? So the law or legislation is all property law, because it's a deed. All right. So I know people get confused, and it's, well, why am I dealing with the Property Act 1925? Because that's the law that deals with debts. Because when you sign of nature, again, you create a deed. So that's all it is a piece of paper called a deed. So that's why it goes under that legislation. It's got to go somewhere. So there it is. So the debt collection companies will tell you they have been given the deed, right? So they never have. The deeds, like you just said, there's probably sitting in Venice, right? Or the Vatican. It's definitely not. It's not at the bank because they've closed the account, and they haven't sold the debt on because they don't. They just sell a list. And
Peter, I've got proof of this, because there was a time when the crash happened, and I had a business employing lots and lots of people, and then we had a nightmare scenario. And there was, coming out of that scenario, there was one instance where we'd taken I think it was a personal loan for like 3,000 quid in 2005 or something for something. I can't remember the details, but they came at us like saying, "Right, you owe us 50,000 quid." And we're like, "What? For what?" And then it was like, and then it got to the point during the conversations, it got to the point where we were saying, "Okay, well, I don't even remember it. We didn't even apply for it, right? There was no, it was just given to us. It was like, "Do you want to?" It was like a phone call from the bank saying, "Do you want a loan for this?" And I was like, "Oh, that'd be useful." Yeah. And then it just came into the account. So we said, "Well, show us where we signed the agreement." And they said over the phone, "Well, it was signed by this person on this date." But we could prove that at that time, that was my wife at the time, she was riding a horse on a beach in another country.
Yeah.
They were lying through their fucking teeth
all the time, man, all the time.
People don't understand that the banks will lie to you. They just don't. My mum got always getting stiffed by the scammers that say they send her a fake TSB thing saying you need to, you need to verify your ID. So my mum just rings them up and does it because it's from the bank, and she believes all the time. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's just one of them things. But like you say, what you never ever do is never call them. because on things that it could be fraud as well. It could just be like, some guy down the street sending out like ridiculous letters. Happens all the time.
Yeah, but they're no more criminal than the banks.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all the same. Banks. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what they do is they try and use the redding, and they try and get you to ring up. And as soon as you've rang up and given your name, right, you've created joinder. It's a brand new contract. You now legally do owe them that money. That's why you never speak to them.
Yeah.
So what you do is, what we can do, or I've actually got. We've got a membership site, and on the membership site, all of this information is there. So it's literally, you can go in and take it, and you can deal with it all yourself, and it works 100%.
What is the membership site? Where do we find it?
At claimyourstrawman.com.
Great, thank you.
So go on there, and then there's links to the membership part of it, because there's tons and tons of free content on there as well. It tells you how to become sovereign, how to actually get out the system, all for free. You have to pay postage and stuff, but all of that information is free. But anyway, part of the membership site will show them, if they want to just do it themselves, go in, they can just read it all as a member. Fair enough, you got to pay a membership, but it's like pennies. And then like they learn all of this, and then they can use it and use the actual documentation, and you get to send them what is called a DSAR, which is a data subject access request. And you're the subject, so you want all of the data provided on you. Now it's a legal binding request. They have to, by their law, not ours, their law, they have to give you all the information, which means the signed contract, the wet ink signature, the deed of assignment from the bank to them. They don't exist. Nobody has them. So they can't supply them. So what they'll do is they'll send off you a load of guff saying, oh, we have a GDPR officer, and he says that we're in the right, and we've got this there, and we're just the agents. We didn't buy the debt. We're just agents. That's what they always say. Or once they say, oh, you bought the debt, show me this. No, I'm just the agent. Well, if you're just the agent, then fuck off. It's simple as. So, yes, but the thing is, go on.
No, sorry. So this is, we've talked about if you are in debt and you're getting chased, don't contact. But then what most people do is they contact, and then they get in, and most people then go into payment plans, and then they get, this shit causes suicide. This shit causes this shit causes children to starve. This is evil beyond belief. This is why Jesus went in with and started beating the shit out of all the
money lenders.
Right? Yeah. He knew, right? Jesus was not a man of peace, by the way. He was a man of justice. This is why we've got to stand up and do this. So a lot of people watching this will be like, oh, I don't live in the UK. I live in America, or I live in Australia. How is it different for me?
Same. Exactly the same.
Good. Okay. And some people will be saying, well, I'm already in a payment plan for my debts. What do I do?
Cancel the payment plan. Cancel the payment plan. I'll even get your money back for you.
Okay. Other people will say stuff like, but when they ring me, I'm scared. My mum would say that. She'd be like, but I'm scared. And how do I, and if they come to the door, I'm scared. It is scary.
That is scary.
And these guys are not the nicest people in the world, right? When they come to the, they don't give a fuck about you. They're on commission, right? They just don't care.
Exactly. But they have no right to be talking to you at all. So just try and sort of like sit back, relax, breathe deep, never answer the door, right? Well, if you did answer the phone and it was one of them, just hang up straight away. We don't have a phone. It's hard to get a hold. It's like in the world of communication, it's sort of like it's very hard to get a hold of me. I don't exist.
Well, unfortunately I do, but I did some work with Peter recently, and we did some letters to get rid of a similar situation. And on the letter that Peter drafted for me, put an address, and I was like, I don't want them knowing my address. I'm just going to put an email address, and I just put an email address at the top. And they wrote to me once at the email address and laughed at me and said, "Oh, it's like you've downloaded something off the internet, and we're going to take you to court and blah." And it was like big bullying tactic. Not heard from them since.
But we replied to that one, didn't we? We just says, look, state your case, give us the information, and they've never wrote back, have they?
No, they haven't.
Because they can't, because they haven't got the information. So it's again, it's just all bluff and lies, just anything to try and scare you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying you know people won't be scared, but try and step back from the situation and try and separate yourself from it. Get rid of the fear. You know, I mean, I know it's hard. We've actually got a self-defense course which I can give people for free. And part of that self-defense course is the psychology part on how to actually relax and step away from it, step away from the fear. And we used to like fight professionally for years, and we used to use these methods. It was kind of like self-hypnosis, knowing that there's a chance we could die tonight, but you know, we have to be prepared to like go through this. And it's just calming, relaxing, very much like meditation, and put yourself in a state where it doesn't scare you. And then you deal with these people in that way, because they're just trying to make you do things by reaction, right? Say things by reaction. You don't want to say your name. You don't want to agree to your name. The best thing to do is just laugh at it, look at it for what it is, and laugh at it. You know, show other people and go, you know, people like me, people, you know, like Mark, not your neighbor, like, pay it quick, you know. But like, and then right, sit down and use the methods that I'm showing to write this DSER, and you can take the piss out of them on the letter. So take a piss, take letter to write back, you know, but make you feel better about it. And then once they haven't replied in proper context, because if they send you guff, they have immediately broke their laws. So then what you do is you will send them what they call an LBA, and you tell them it's a letter before action. Now that you have, and you put down the list, because they think that we're all stupid. So they don't realize that we've done research.
We are stupid
because mostly people are ignorant of the law.
Well, yeah, but they think we're stupid because they've made us stupid.
That's true as well.
They've made us ignorant, right? So this is what this is all about, self-empowerment. That's what this period of time is all about, is finding the strength within you, because you are incredibly powerful. So we're in, you know, I'm not calling anybody watching this stupid. I'm just saying, I feel like an idiot because I did 5 years of economics, didn't know what a fractional reserve banking system was. I used to salute the Queen without realizing she was a reptilian lizard that ate babies. I mean, we all feel stupid because we've been duped to such a degree. It's incredible. It just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
But then also on top of that, you know, what they've been doing is they've been bombarding us, you know, with barium and leads and everything coming through the air, and aluminium, and then they've been sticking the fluoride in the water, so they're poisoning you, even in your food that you're eating. So, you know, they're actually trying to dumb you down all the time anyway. So, and then what they do is they're going to give you games and bread, aren't they? So stick away from your television, right? Because everybody's in on the television. And, you know, I was watching people last night. They were saying, "Oh, I was binge watching this. I was binge watching that." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
I can't believe people still watch TV and don't realize. I mean, I accidentally was on YouTube and was following a trail of something I was interested in. I ended up watching 5 minutes of the Graham Norton show from about a year ago. And they're sat on this stage, socially distanced. And Tom Jones is on there talking about having the jab and how everybody should get the jab. And I'm like, what the fuck? I felt sick. I've only watched 10 minutes of television in the last 2 years. That was 5 minutes. And it's mind-blowing that people are still tuning into this fucking bullshit.
Yeah. And then even more incredible, they watch the news, for God's sake, you know, like news, as if what's new about that?
Well, if mum, if you're watching this video, which I hope you are, because I'm going to send you the link. She has the TV on, right, because she wants to be. She says she feels less lonely. It's like having someone in the house. And I said, but it's brainwashing you. And she goes, and she says to me, but I don't watch the news. I said, it doesn't matter. It's all brainwashing you. It's all got messages coming in through that digital signal, and
EMF pouring out of it.
Hypnotizing you, mum. Will you turn the fucking television off, right? And she goes, yeah, but you know, I feel lonely without it. And I said, you had fucking 50 years without TV. Did you watch TV as a kid? What, you know, we never had the telly on when I was a kid. What are you talking about? And she goes, oh yeah. Anybody watching this, get rid of your fucking television.
Throw it out. Get rid of it.
It's the first rule of Fight Club. Get rid of the television. It is.
Yeah, wicked.
And the radio, and the radio's
Oh
awful.
God, yeah, yeah.
Because, yeah.
When we go out, like, go to the gym to run the classes and everything, they got the dogs. We put the dogs in the kitchen, and if anyone goes near them, they bark like mad. So we put radios on either side to play music to the dogs to stop them hearing the neighbours. But even when I'm walking out the house and I hear the radio coming on, the news come on, I'm like, oh God, I hate this. Luckily, the dogs can't speak English, so I don't think that they can understand.
No, you brainwash your own dogs. They're probably taking a mortgage out while you were off.
Yeah, I wondered where all that debt comes from.
All right. So
anyway, going back to that LBA, the letter before action. So you show them a list of all of the law, the 1925 Property Act, GDPR, and all the regulations. I've got a list of them, like Section 1, Section 5, and it states them, and then a little description. Like, you don't have to remember this; it's all there. It's written down. You can read it, copy it, print it out, and you tell them what laws they've broke. And once they know, they think, "Oh shit." Right, they know what they're talking about. So now we've told them this is a letter before action, and you're actually going to say, well, now, so you can either deal with it now and let's make a settlement out of court, or I'm going to take it to court. And then if they don't reply, which like 99% of the time they don't reply because they think they're more clever than we are, you can go and make a claim against them. You can make a claim against them. So you can go in and put in like what I'd call an N208 at the court. Now you have to pay for it, but let's just look at it in a good way. If they're claiming 10, 30 and 15, 20, whatever £1,000 from you in debt, it costs you £308 to do an N208 claim. And it's not, do you know what it is? You can even ring the court, like, and because they're all normal people, they're not all hideous villains against you, painting their faces, and speak to the clerk of the court and just say, look, I've never done this before. I'm filling this claim form in. Is this the right thing to write here? Is this the right thing to write there? Right. And you'll get help doing it. But obviously, if you're going to use like a company like mine, like smashadebt.com or another one, like that'll do it, they'll do it for you. They'll help you through it. You put the claim form in. Now, this is the weird thing, and we do this for specific reasons. Right, and then probably everyone's never heard of an N208 anyway. An N208 is only for a judgment. You're not getting any money for it. You're just claiming against them. Then once you get your N208, you have a judgment. You then go for the money. You then go for a financial claim because the judge has already agreed they were in the wrong.
So this is my next step in our thing, is doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that after the show. Okay. Do you know what we've got? There's all this stuff about trusts and all of that as well that we need to talk about. But I'm running out of time now. What information you've just given in the last hour is really everybody watching this. I'll put links to the stuff. We'll put the content to put onto the ID card. I want to do that straight away. Links to the Smash Your Debt and the other thing. There's a lot to this subject, and some of the people watching this for the first time, I don't want to go and do a 2-3 hour video about it. What I want to do is get back with you next week and go into trust, because the trust side of it is a whole subject in itself, right? And
well, it's huge. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you're
one thing I will say just before we finish, though, right? Because you just mentioned it, that people have gone onto a payment plan already and have agreed because they were scared. They made a phone call, cancel the payment plan, cancel your direct debit, go to your bank and claim all of that money back under the direct debit guarantee scheme. Under the direct debit guarantee scheme, the banks must repay that money immediately. All you say is like, look, I found out that I haven't got a contract with these people. I have mistakenly been paying them. This is all a mistake, right? I need this money repaid now. They will repay that money, right? And then as soon as you've repaid that money, then you can continue with the thing about doing the claim and doing the DSAR letters and the N208. So you can get that money back. Stop paying it now.
That DSR and N200, whatever it is that the same in every country?
Well, the DSAR is, or they might have a slightly different word. It might say SAR, but it's the subject access request. They want all the information And you know, like in England, it's the 1925 Property Act and the GDPR rules, which is European, that they'll be breaking. That, you know, it wouldn't take a lot to do a little bit of research to find out what would be the equivalent laws, because you've all got data protection laws, everyone, and they are breaking data protection laws by having your data. Shouldn't have it.
I know the data protection laws in the States are far less stringent than this European GDPR bollocks that they brought out.
But it still works. And also by them asking you for money, right? Well, again, I can only 100% talk about UK laws, but it's also against the 2006 Fraud Act as well. For them to ask you for money by mail, that's literally asking money fraudulently. So, you know, and there'll be a similar fraud one in all the other countries. There will be.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the message really is take this information, go and do your own research, and start making a plan for yourself, because you can be free of debt, you can be sovereign, and you have more power than you could possibly imagine. And we'll do more videos, but go and engage, follow the links to Peter's stuff, because he's brilliant at this and has been doing it, and out of the goodness of his heart most of the time. It's just also because we're both middle-aged men who were born in a time of more freedom, and we don't like what's going on, do we? Brilliant to talk to you. I'll chat to you in a bit. Everybody watching, thank you. I'll see you in a bit. Take care.